I think we'll go ahead and get started. All right, welcome everyone to the MUSC Conversation Cafe for October. My name is Christine von Kalnitz. I'm the Sustainability Manager at MUSC. Our topic today is food waste, and if you were with us last month, then you probably know we were talking about sustainable nutrition, so this dovetails with that really well. Uh, um, the mission of MUSC Sustainability is to build healthy communities by inspiring and implementing social solutions to environmental, social, and economic challenges. And definitely one of the areas we work in a fair amount throughout the year is food, energy and water, of course, conserving those kilowatt hours and gallons, and transportation issues, etc. Next slide. So during the presentation, if you could check the chat, we will be putting this information in there. We have a monthly newsletter, and you can sign up for that. It will, next month, the recording of today's presentation will be in there, and it'll point you to our YouTube page where all of our former recordings live. We also have other social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on campus at MUSC, we use Yammer as well. And next up, I'm going to pass it to Brendan.
So my name is Brendan, and I'm the sustainability intern here for MUSC. Also, going on the social media, we recently just created a LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with us on there too at MUSC Go Green. We'd love to talk to you guys and everything. And so our December Convo Cafe coming up is tentatively going to be December 1st, and it's with the One Region Roadmap, where we're going to learn more about how Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester County are all trending towards more sustainable infrastructure and economies. So it'll be a really fun thing to look at. And our guest speaker today, we're joined by Miss Adah Gorton from the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, where Miss Gorton works in the Office of Solid Waste Reduction and Recycling. And Miss Gorton also works to help colleges and universities with all their recycling needs, tells the story of solid waste in South Carolina through data analysis, and assists with Don't Waste Food SC. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and we'll pass that on.
Thanks, Brendan. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good.
And want to let everyone know if they have questions during the presentation to put those in the chat.
All right. All right. Can someone let me know that they see this?
I do see that.
Okay, good. All right. So this is, I'm going to give you guys a few disclaimers real quick. I get very bored during slideshows. I also don't like to be bored, so I'm a little informal. I like to make really bad jokes, and if you would like to mute yourselves to make sure that I don't hear your groans, that'd be really helpful. So let's get started. So what does DHEC have to do with food waste? Basically, a lot. There are many layers to which we should and could be involved with food waste. But I do want to talk just a little bit about something that I wish someone had talked to me about when I was a lot younger than I was when I walked in the door at DHEC. I never understood how DHEC was structured at all. So I kind of want to talk to you guys for a minute about what DHEC actually looks like. So our organization, just to let you guys know, I have a slightly irreverent sense of humor too. So I think the work that our organization is doing from restaurant food grades to COVID is incredible, and I admire everyone greatly. But we are more than just that. So if you recognize this, that's a very good thing. You probably do recognize it from the food grade stamps that are in the windows wherever you're going to eat. This is what DHEC looks like. When I'm explaining it to people, I generally tell them there are two sides to DHEC, health and environment. but it actually breaks down to something far more complicated, and there are a million moving pieces. But for us today, let's focus on this area right here in environmental affairs. So zoom in on that, and you'll see that there are many different aspects to taking care of the environment in South Carolina and anywhere else. But here we have stuff like the Bureau of Water, of course, Bureau of Air. These are pretty straightforward. There's also OCRM, which is Coastal Resource Management. They're down all along the coast. They have offices and they take care of, well, the coast and the water down there to make sure that everything stays clean and healthy. There's also, when we zoom in a little bit more, it gets a little more complicated. All of this is under the Bureau of Land and Waste Management within Environmental Affairs. Somewhere down in here, I'll show you where I am. But for right now, this is all different stuff that DHEC does. So when you meet someone who works at DHEC and you know someone who works at DHEC, they probably don't actually know each other. It's very unlikely. We're a huge organization and we're covering obviously many, many different things. And there are, I mean, you can see from here, there's compliance and enforcement, which is kind of the opposite of my section. We're a lucky little bubble right here where this arrow is. It's the Division of Mining and Solid Waste Management. We have everything from solid waste facility permitting, that includes like landfills and transfer stations and all kinds of solid waste, anything that handles solid waste. That permitting section is down the hall from me. We also have a grant section, which actually is going to become a part of our section very soon, which is exciting. There's also a mining section down the hall, which still blows my mind. I really don't know very much about that, so please don't ask me any questions about it. So if you zoom in one more time, you'll see that breakdown that I was just talking about. I am in the section right here, Education, Technical Assistance, and Reporting. We handle outreach and education for recycling, waste reduction, and general sustainability most of the time. Our specialty is in waste reduction and recycling though. So that's me right there. And I'm here to talk to you because I work on both the Don't Waste Food SC campaign, which I'll tell you about in just a second. And I also do outreach and education, technical assistance for colleges and universities with any kind of waste reduction and recycling. So that's why you get me and not one of these other fun folks over here. All right, so time for a quick question. If you'll just answer in the chat, that would be awesome. Did you even know that DHEC had a recycling office? Please answer A, B, or C. And Brendan, if you'll let me know how that looks.
You've gotten quite a lot of A's so far and a couple B's.
Wow, you guys are so smart. To be fully transparent, I had no idea before I interviewed for the position that there even was a recycling office at DHEC. So you guys are way above the curve on that one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So the reason that our office exists and the reason that I'm talking to you about anything related to waste today is because of a piece of legislation and policy called the SC Solid Waste Policy and Management Act of 1991. We just call it the Act. So it created a lot of things. It put responsibility on a lot of people, and it had a lot of rules that were made that a lot of people just don't pay a lot of mind to be honest. On that end, there's a specific written law within there about plastics, packaging, motor oil, waste tires, lead acid batteries. You can read. I don't need to read the whole list to you. However, on the other end, it did a lot of things that we are following to a T, which is it created our office. It also created things like solid waste, the Solid Waste Management Annual Report, which currently we produce in our office. It created a grants program, which MUSC sometimes gets those grants, so that's awesome. It also created things like a solid waste advisory council and a trust fund and an emergency fund. So when things happen like tire collectors get a little out of control, or there is a landfill fire, both of which have happened recently, there's money in the bank to take care of these problems. The other thing is that the act created responsibilities for everyone from local governments to colleges such as yours. So what it means for MUSC, this is all very long and drawn out. I even put ellipses in to try and cut it down a little bit. However, the important things are that MUSC needs to recycle, buy recycled, and brag about it to me. So as long as you guys are recycling, buying some recycled things, and reporting your data every year, you're doing a great job. And guess what? You're already doing it. You guys have a stellar program and fantastic people who I am fortunate to work with fairly frequently. And honestly, I steal your stuff to show other people as a fantastic example. So you don't have to worry about any of that, except I just wanted to make sure that you have kind of a background for what we're doing today. Now let's talk about the important thing. My favorite thing in the whole world, food. So, Brendan, if you'll man that chat box again for me. Do you guys know how big of a problem food waste is? I don't want to tell you a bunch of stats you already know, but if you want them, I have a few for you. So the one in A says the US alone throws away about 35 million tons of food a year. And when I say throw away, I mean that goes to a landfill, not it's composted or donated or even like sent to an energy conversion facility or anything like that. Like that's straight up landfill. So Brendan, if you'll let me know how that looks when you get
the answers are coming in as A so far.
Oh, everyone knows. Fantastic. Cool. Well, I'll just let you know one thing that probably isn't as widely published as that stat. In fiscal year 2020, which is the most recent data we have for South Carolina itself landfilled over 1 million tons of food. So that's not great, especially while we have 1 in 9 people in South Carolina being food insecure. So all of that is to say, we saw a problem. We're charged with waste reduction, and we love food. So we created a campaign called Don't Waste Food SC. Very straightforward. We just want people to prevent it whenever possible. If they can't do that, we want them to donate anything that they can. And then at the end, we want them to compost anything that can't be handled the other 2 ways. And that's the gist of it. Again, MUSC is already taking care of this. In fact, they were one of the first Don't Waste Food SC ambassadors. We created the ambassador program so that, one, we love having partners. We love talking about people who are doing things well. We think that that's more important than telling people what to do. We don't love doing that, honestly. But so when we can point to someone and say, hey, look at what they're doing. Let's start a conversation across the board. And so you have these examples to look at. So that's what we were hoping for with the ambassador campaign. Everyone just shares what they're doing and then talks about it a little. And then we talk about what all of you are doing. And then we have a community, which can get a lot more done than just one set of people by themselves or one individual by themselves. I do want to let you know, individuals are more than welcome. They're encouraged to become ambassadors. All you have to do is participate. So compost or prevent or donate or all of the above. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or let us know that you want to. We'll send you a window cling to stick in your front door or on your car or wherever, and just fill out the application and you'll be an ambassador. pretty easy. So the point is, you're already in an environment where they're doing as much as they can. So I want to know if you will too. And I know that's a lot of pressure. So, I mean, yeah, of course you want to help or you wouldn't be here today. So how can you help? I'm going to talk to you about a few different things you can do. As with everything, you want to start by doing some research and talking to other people who are doing it. You're already doing all of that just by being here, listening to me talk today. For my part, I've focused on prevention. I'm going to let you know this is a prevention-heavy presentation. So if you're looking for compost guidelines, reach out to me later. I'll hook you up with one of my counterparts who knows the ins and outs of it. I can help you with the basics, but for my part, I want to focus on let's not do it in the first place. So prevent. Unless you're already a master in this, get your pencil or your phone and your notes app ready to go, because I'm going to lay it on you really hard. Planning is the most important thing. Smart planning saves food. I'm just going to walk you through this. You can read what's on the screen. I'm going to tell you what my week looks like. One, like I said, food is the most important thing to me. So if I'm not planning my meals, I'm just going to be mindlessly looking at food on my phone anyway. So starting on Friday, I go ahead and think about what I'm going to make for my next week of lunches. I don't like to not know what I'm having for lunch every day. It takes a lot of my brain power if I don't have something figured out, and I will go spend probably $15 or $20 at a restaurant because I can't decide what to get. So I start by planning out what I'm going to eat. And then I go through this process every week. I try to make a list of all the ingredients I'll need for my meals, and then think of any snacks I want to make or any snacks I want to buy. And then I go shopping in my kitchen. I see what I already have. Usually I have some kind of beans. I have some kind of grains. I see what I've already got. And then I go to the grocery store and try really, really, really hard to only buy what I've put on that list. That does not always work out. We're all human. Sometimes the Oreos are really fun new flavor and you really want them. That's okay. Just make sure you have friends who will share them with you. Another fun thing to do, just going to go and click through this. If you're already pretty good at this and you've been planning your meals for a while, you can actually start on the third step. Just go check out what you have in your kitchen and build and plan your meals around what you already have. And that'll help you prevent waste and save a lot of money. And then you know that you're not throwing any of that stuff that you already have away. So at this point, you go shopping, you get your stuff home, you're doing great. What you want to do at that point is go ahead and prep things that you're going to be too tired to mess with later in the week. This is where I'm asking you to turn around and know yourself very well. I know that I will get too busy and I will be very tired Monday when I get home from work. So I'm not going to mess with any vegetables at that point. So on Saturday after I shop, I go ahead and I chop up, some carrots or some peppers to have with hummus later in the week when I need a snack. Also, make sure to organize your fridge, your freezer, your pantry, any place that you keep food. If you keep that organized, it will help you to see and know what is in there at all times. Also, you can just keep a little inventory list. That is incredibly helpful. And if you just update that every time you go shopping or every time you remove something, then you don't even have to look. You just have your list. So the next thing is to understand where different things should go. There's a lot of science behind placement of food and how long it will last. So we made a little card for you to use. I keep one taped in the inside of a cabinet in my kitchen because my family doesn't retain knowledge, but they can use a reference card. So the first thing I want to talk to you about on here is ethylene gas. I am not a scientist, but I've done a lot of research on this because I find it fascinating and I don't want to throw away my fruit and vegetables. That that perfect fruit bowl idea with the oranges on top of the apples, under the bananas, with like a kiwi thrown in for a little flair. That's a terrible idea. You shouldn't ever have that. All of those fruits are either ethylene producers or ethylene sensitive. And what ethylene does is it's the gas that causes ripening in your produce. So we have producers and then we have those that are sensitive. So if you put an apple with bananas in a bowl together, they're both going to go bad really, really, really quickly. So what you want to do is you want to figure out how to store things separately and in the correct place. It's a little bit of a math problem and a logistics problem, but you can do it. If you'll notice, some things that are producers are also sensitive. That doesn't mean that you have to, keep your apples on the counter 3 feet away from another 3 feet. It just means don't put them all in a paper bag and then put them in the corner. If you trap them, that gas is going to get trapped and they're going to rot really, really quickly. So the other thing is to know about what should go in the fridge, where it should go, and what shouldn't. Those drawers that are in the bottom of your refrigerator, that dial that's on them, it's usually like 1 to 5, and most people I know just set it at about 3 and say, medium seems good. That's actually a humidity gauge. So if you're going to store vegetables in one, put that on a high humidity setting. If you're going to store fruits in the other, in general, these are general things. What we call fruit sometimes are actually vegetables and vice versa. So learn your fruits and veggies. But fruits generally require a lower humidity. So you don't want to put them all in one drawer together. Again, that ethylene becomes a problem, and they like different climates. So if you have 2 drawers, set one for a high humidity, a low humidity, fruits in one, veggies in the other. If you don't, just use it for vegetables, set it on a high humidity, and then leave your fruit out on a shelf, like in this picture. That'll give it more space to put off that ethylene, and it won't get trapped and just degrade your fruits really quickly. Also, practice the first in, first out system. Grocery stores and restaurants use this a lot. Basically, it just means take your items that you have on the shelf already or in your fridge and move them forward, and then put the newer items behind that. That way, whatever's oldest gets used first. Also, for your refrigerator and your freezer, you should have them set at particular temperatures. For your refrigerator, I personally recommend right at 40 degrees. The recommendation across the board from the powers that be and or people in the know say at or below 40. But once you start to get on the lower end of the 30s, any greens and not hardy vegetables are going to start to sort of wilt and get mushy. And I don't know about you, but that's the worst thing in the world to me. So I sort of stick right at 40. Invest in a thermometer. They cost like $5. Don't trust. I don't know. My fridge has 1 through 7. I don't know what 3 means. Again, most people just go with the middle's good, right? 3, 4. It's better to know what's going on in there, because that's a thermometer is a much more accurate way to know. Also, your freezer should always be set at or below 0 degrees to keep things safe and happy. So speaking of the powers that be and the folks who've done a lot of research on this, this is from the FDA. It is a guidance on refrigerator and freezer storage, but it's more for, these are quality timelines, especially in reference to the freezer. Literally, if you put something in the freezer and keep it at or below 0 degrees, it is safe indefinitely. Safe to eat. It doesn't mean it's going to taste good. That doesn't mean it's going to have a pleasing texture, but it will be safe to eat. So it will not make you sick. However, that's not always, just because something's safe doesn't mean I want it. So this is kind of a guideline for how long things are still gonna taste good, how long they'll live there and not make you not want to eat them. And I'll be sending this with everything else so you can reference it later. Another thing that leads to so much food waste is not understanding the date labels on different things. There are way too many different labels that are put on food in our country. There is currently not just one standard. There are obviously at least these four, probably more, that people just put on things. That being said, there is legislation to try and fix this problem. We'll see if it gets through this year. It's been attempted for about 5 years now, at least. So what I want you to know about this is that most of these have nothing to do with you. They are for the store, or they are for the manufacturer, or at the most, there's no such thing as an expiration date. Growing up, I was told that these were expiration dates. That is not real. Not one of these dates refers to food safety. These refer to quality of product, what the manufacturer thinks the quality of product, what the lifespan on that is. There is one federally mandated expiration date, and that is on baby formula, and that's because that is a baby's sole source of nutrients, and after a certain date, the nutrients in that formula are gonna degrade. So the baby will not receive the nutrients that it needs. For that purpose, that is actually an expiration date. So can you guys tell me the best way to decide if food is still safe to eat?
So the most popular answer is C.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's not B, you guys. I'm really relieved. That is correct. You know what looks right and what does not. If something smells funny, if something suddenly looks slimy, if something has mold. There are foods where you can cut off moldy parts and eat around them. Each food is very specific. If you're gonna get brave, learn what you're doing on that one. Do some research before you just start munching on something that used to have mold. Yeah, use your common sense. You know how apples are supposed to look, and when they start to look like the Snow White apple, don't be a hero. If your gut tells you that this probably isn't a good thing to eat, don't eat it. There are other things you can do with it instead. Another thing that's really helpful to help prevent food waste is to shop local. If you get your produce or your meat or your cheese from a local source, that means that it didn't have to travel very far. So it hasn't been off the vine or from the cow or from wherever, as long as something that had to be shipped over from California or up from Florida. You guys, in good times, I'm honestly not sure of the status of these two items, but in good times, you have an urban farm, you have a CSA pickup. I know there's also sometimes a farmer's market that happens. I don't know what COVID's done to that, but also you live in Charleston. There are markets everywhere. There is fresh produce everywhere, and it's fantastic and way better than the stuff you can just buy that's been, like I said, shipped from somewhere far away. Take an extra minute, pay an extra $1 to not throw away something that's going to go bad in your fridge like a day later. Another thing to keep in mind if you're going to cafeterias or buffets in particular, start slow. The reason the cliche, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, is a cliche is because it's common. It is a common thing that happens. You can always go back for more, particularly in a buffet setting. So just get a plate, eat it, give yourself a couple minutes, see how you feel. Also, if you aren't sure if you're going to like something, ask for a sample. The worst they can say is no. That way you'll know if you actually enjoy something or if it just looked better than it actually tasted. And if you are going to just grab a plate and go, carry a container or a bag that can that has a little insulation to it with you. So if you don't eat everything, you can just stick it in the bag and take it home, just to avoid a little bit of that cafeteria waste. And if all else fails, share. If you end the week with a bunch of extra vegetables or like part of 10 different dishes in your refrigerator, just have a potluck with your friends. Have everybody bring whatever's left in their fridge and figure out what to do with it. It might be a little weird sometimes, but it's super fun to do, I think. Also, when you're trying to find something that you want to make, look for small batch recipes. It's a big deal now for people who don't want to waste and people who are choosing not to partner off and people who don't have big families. This on the left actually is my picture. I made a small batch of brownies because my family doesn't love brownies, but I wanted some. So you can probably find a smaller batch version of whatever recipe it is that you're looking for. Also, the third tip is very much from my experience as well. If you meal prep and you end up with 6 servings of something, bring lunch to a friend. Almost every week now, I bring lunch to one of my coworkers because I just end up not completely following the recipe as written and adding a bunch of extra veggies. And then I end up with way too much food. So sharing can make you some friends too. All right, and it's November. You knew coming into this that we were going to have to talk about Thanksgiving a little bit. It is the holiday of overabundance. So a lot of times things get thrown away when people get tired of leftovers. So let's talk a little bit about how to mitigate that. If you're planning the meal, there are a few things I want you to think about. Just if you just do a few of these, you'll probably save yourself time, money, stress, frustration, and food. Start by getting an accurate head count of who's going to be at your meal. When you do that, decide if you in advance if you're going to want some leftovers. For me, there's no point in Thanksgiving if we're not going to have a turkey sandwich for like 3 or 4 days afterwards. I really love it. If you don't love leftovers, try and not have as many by getting an extremely accurate head count. If you have a big family, if you have a big community of friends, leave a little wiggle room for a couple of guests. You don't want to leave anybody out. That's part of the holiday spirit, but don't account for like 5 or 10 extra people, or you'll end up throwing away a bunch of food. While you're doing that head count, make sure you know the folks involved. Again, I'm just going to tell you about my experience, apparently. So my family, they want turkey, they want dressing, they want sweet potatoes, and they want stuffing. I already said dressing, same thing. And they want some cranberry sauce, but not a lot of cranberry sauce. They don't want a curry turkey, though I would love that. Just know whether they're traditional folks or adventurous eaters. Don't make a bunch of Brussels sprouts if nobody at your meal likes Brussels sprouts. You can make a smaller batch of those for yourself later on. Same vein, if anybody has any dietary restrictions, make sure you're aware of that because you don't want to make a bunch of dinner rolls if half of your folks who are coming to dinner are gluten-free. Try also to keep in mind what everybody loves. If everybody goes crazy every year for your mashed potatoes, make sure to bulk up a little more on that and not as much on, green bean casserole if they don't really like it. There are a ton of resources out there, and I don't want you guys to take us as the authority on this. We are basically trying, like I said, to make a community. We are taking information from anyone who has information, as long as it's good information. So don't reinvent the wheel. Go to savethefood.com. They have this really cool tool called the Guesstimator. It lets you pick whether people are small, medium, or big appetite eaters, and you can calculate how much food to make based on that. There's also, I know this says Christmas meal planner. You can use it for whatever meal you like. This will help you save time, money, again, stress, all of these things. If you just take a minute to make yourself a meal planner, including what tasks you can do before the day, what time things need to happen the day of, what leftovers you're anticipating, and any other information that you need to keep in mind, like the dinner rolls need to go in 15 minutes before everybody gets here. Here's a bonus challenge for you folks who are super experienced. I know there are a few of you because I see who's here. Try to work backwards when you're planning your side dishes. Go look at that kitchen inventory that I know you've already made and see if you can come up with any side dishes that use any of those ingredients. That'll help you use what you already have, save you money and a shopping trip. And you can, I don't know, you can brag about it if you want at the dinner table. So if you're not having a big meal and you are doing a potluck style meal, I know some folks don't like to sign up for a specific dish because they feel a little enclosed, but you can have them, instead of doing that, sign up for a really specific category of dish. So instead of like, hey, side dishes, be specific and say vegetable side dishes, starchy side dishes, so you don't end up with, 8 pounds of mashed potatoes or 3 green bean casseroles and nothing else. Buy in bulk, not that kind of bulk, this kind of bulk. If you're making something that requires dried cranberries and you don't often use dried cranberries, go find a store or a co-op that has bulk bins. Then you can buy exactly your 1 cup or exactly your 1/3 of a cup of whatever the ingredient is, and that way you won't waste any. You'll save yourself some money. My goodness, no one can afford to buy pine nuts that they aren't going to end up using. They're way too expensive. So if no one trusts you with cooking, we have that guy in our family too. I used to be that guy. Just go to a store or just bring some that you already have, these leftover containers. I don't love plastic ones, but if you don't anticipate getting them back, you might not want to spend the money on Pyrex. But it's something you can contribute, and that way everyone gets to take a little bit of the food home and the host is not stuck with pounds and pounds and pounds of leftover food. When it comes time to eat your leftovers, use your phone, use your Google to figure out what you can do to make something creative. I know there are a lot of people who get tired of a turkey sandwich after the first day. So if you just do a quick search of what do I do with leftover mashed potatoes? What do I do with leftover cranberry sauce? These are really popular search terms now, and you can find lots of really cool stuff. We found one for Thanksgiving nachos, where you use almost every single thing that you had at Thanksgiving dinner to make something really interesting and different. And if you want tips like that, but you don't feel like going through the Google machine, you can follow us on Instagram, and we're going to be sharing some suggestions for that, which we usually do around most holidays. Okay, so we're getting to the end now. Those are all my prevention tips for now. I do want to make sure that if you have anything left over, if you, buy the stovetop stuffing, you only made one of the boxes, you have another one. You have an extra can of green beans or peas. You planned to make dessert and didn't get around to it. You have a bag of sugar that you're just not going to use. I know that we do the big holiday food drives in anticipation of holidays. Food drives are 24/7, 365. They still need that food. So donate things that you didn't get around to using. They'll be really grateful to get them. Also, there will always be scraps. There will always be something that doesn't get eaten. There will always be a misstep in planning. We're humans. The human factor will never fail to be a factor. So compost. It's more difficult to compost once it gets cold. Apparently, it's not going to get really cold this year, according to the weather that I've been walking out in, where it's 75 right now. But when it does get cold, you can compost. It actually requires less work. You just have to monitor it. So, yeah, that's an option too. Also, before you put your scraps in the compost, use them to make stock. We do have a lot of resources for you if you want to go to the web. Nice shortened URL for you, scdhec.gov/DWFSC, or same beginning / don't waste food SC. We have a few different ones that we tried to figure out what you might look for, and we dropped them all in there so they'll be easier to find. We have a lot of different resources. Go check them out. I might see if I can send a few with the follow-up to this. So I might have talked a little fast, but if you have any questions, I'm here right now. These are different ways to get in touch with me. The first number is my direct line. The second number is actually our toll-free 1-800-recycling number from the hours of about 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There should be someone here answering that on weekdays. Again, scdhec.gov/DWFSC for Don't Waste Food resources and information. You can email Don't Waste Food SC. And you can also please follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you have either of those. We post pretty frequently and we try to come up with interesting and more fun stuff. Also, this is Winston. He's the premier ambassador for Don't Waste Food. He doesn't believe in food waste at all. He says it should all go to him. So if you guys have questions, I am here. And I will stop sharing this so I can talk to you.
Adah, that was fabulous.
No, thanks.
Yes, you are fun and engaging.
Thanks.
You had me laughing throughout. One person was interested in the CSAs in Charleston.
Yes.
Do you know any more about that in Charleston? In the Charleston area? We thought that MUSC had a CSA pickup or a drop-off, at MUSC through the Office of Health Promotion, and then it was compost in my shoe, and Terry Lynn says that they're on hiatus,
okay.
maybe because of COVID. So I guess one thing I can do is make a note of that and get in touch with the Office of Health Promotion and see what's coming up, and then I can let people know.
Very good. That was the chief one I was referring to. There's actually a website. I need to look it up again. I have looked this up for a couple of folks who have called our 1-800 number, and there is actually a listing. I'll look that up and send that as part of the follow-up. But I remember finding a whole listing of CSAs in your area and being pretty jealous.
Oh.
We have a couple here that are really good, but I was like, wow, that's so many.
Yeah, there are a bunch. And I do remember during COVID, we put together an entire resource on how to buy local food during quarantine. So I guess one thing we could do is try to update that for now and make sure that it's still available, because it had resources like that on it.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
awesome.
another thing we could work on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can find that website again and shoot it to you guys for, like you said, Christine, you'll send out the recording and all that. So
Yes. Terry Lynn is saying that Legree Farms has drop-offs all over the county. And Hannah says Gruber Family CSA Farm is based out of St. George for the people who live up in Somerville.
cool.
And Rachel wrote in that there's a website she uses called Super Cook, and you enter what you have in your kitchen, and then it comes up with a recipe.
Yes. There are a handful of those different recipe generators. They're amazing. I highly recommend.
Cool. Yeah, I had a butternut squash on the counter the other day, and I looked at it and just put butternut squash in the Google.
Yeah, I mean, you have the technology. It's a great way to do things.
What else? There's another website that Rachel is referring to called Save the Food.
Yes, that is where the guesstimator tool is. There's also information about specific fruits and vegetables, meats, dairy, every individual item, how best to keep it. It's
that was interesting
helpful.
about that ethylene. I want to post that somewhere in my kitchen as well now.
Perfect. Yeah, learning that was a mind-blowing day for me.
And Terry Lynn is referring to her thousands of cookbooks she likes to read. Yeah, I do too. I have a chair in my kitchen, and it is like a, sort of your grandmother's chair, and it's got cookbooks in a stack right next to it.
Perfect.
That's my happy place. So I understand. Does anyone else have questions? If you do, put them in the chat. It looks like somebody is typing. I'm gonna look through this chat one more time. I did put the website link to Don't Waste Food SC in the chat.
Thank you.
And of course, all the links to the MUSC sustainability social media, that's also in the chat. Okay. I don't think I see any more questions. But now it looks like someone's typing again.
I'm just catching up on the comments. These are very nice, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Yeah, if I get to do in person with y'all anytime soon, I'll bring you something to eat next time, the baked stuff.
Oh, wow. That sounds
great.
Thanks.
Alex from my office is actually sharing social media links as well in the chat.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we have a Facebook and an Instagram that they fortunately let us operate, so that's cool.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think we might be hooked to your Facebook, but if we're not, we'll double check and make sure we're hooked up to your Instagram.
Very good.
All right. Well, yeah, you've got me hungry now.
Good.
Can't wait for Thanksgiving. So I really appreciate you coming today. Brendan, great job pulling everything together, and thank you, Rachel, for all your help. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And this has been recorded. It'll be out there to share with all your friends and family. Get the word out before the holidays so that we don't waste food. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,